What's up, guys? So I was on a walk, running some errands, guys, and I was in the time I think in the between prayer or loud kind of like meditation or whatever, where I was just going over some thoughts, and I wanted to talk about something that I really want to implement in Eden Cafe, guys, which for now I think is one entryway into the marketplace, the business world, is through the Eden Cafe concept of YE Company, guys. But I was thinking about kind of what is lost when a company scales as big as Starbucks does. I'm sure in the beginning stages, maybe Starbucks didn't necessarily have this stigma that I'm going to talk about right now. But again, I have nothing against Starbucks. I love going to Starbucks. I think they have a lot of good offerings and a lot of locations with, pretty good hours where, their services are great. And, in general, kind of for, the working class at least, their prices are pretty good. And so at the same time, guys, um, one of the kind of missions that I think God has placed on my heart in regards to moving forward with YE Company and ministries is to address those that are marginalized in our society. And again, not to talk bad about Starbucks or the owner of Starbucks or even the employees of Starbucks, but one thing, especially for someone that is interested in starting a cafe myself, guys, one thing I noticed going into different Starbucks, and this is not just Starbucks, guys. This is other areas and other fast food joints do this too. But basically, I was just contemplating some of the attitude that you can sort of get from um, Starbucks. Because Starbucks is now one of the, if not the leader in their industry of coffee and the retail coffee space. I think that um, people know that and they have like a high value system in regards to Starbucks. But guys, I have sort of encountered consistently, at least in the Seattle area, the foundation of Starbucks, some bad attitudes in regards to, some of the things that I'm, trying to do in the Starbucks area. I have a few points to mention about that. So I know many of you might be out there where you know that you can get a free water at Starbucks, guys. But I've encountered many, sort of bad attitudes from Starbucks workers when you don't have the money, of course. But I don't even come off as if I don't have the money because sometimes I do have the money, but I just want a water. And so sometimes when I go into these Starbucks, guys, and I ask for something as simple as a water, um, not going into the whole appearance or the clothing that you wear or how you carry yourself and how that correlates to how people treat you. I know there's a whole stigma around that too, but also, guys, there's kind of this stigma that I do get in other places besides Starbucks too, where for something that most restaurants or most places even in the United States has an understanding to most likely give complimentary water, guys. And especially because water in at least the United States is relatively abundant. um, More than relatively, it is in general abundant, in the United States, and especially in certain areas more than others like Seattle, Washington. And so sometimes I think the workers of Starbucks can have what we call like a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. And which is, in my opinion, it's good to kind of be proud of the company that you work for. But at the same time, guys, for especially, catering to all of the community, not just a certain segment or class of people, especially in the Seattle area, guys. When you talk about treating another human being with dignity and respect, um, I do think that a lot of companies need to step up in this area. And of course, we as people need to do better. I haven't always, done great at this either myself of treating people with dignity and respect. But nevertheless, guys, that still doesn't mean we shouldn't be changing our ways and adapting to be even better of an organization and company and person. And so that's one of the kind of things that I wanted to share. But also, another thing that I wanted to share that I've actually experienced multiple times in different Starbucks is um, being asked to leave if you don't buy anything. Guys, in the United States, I just think that is so rude, just for lack of a better word, especially if you are not causing any problems or excessive noise or a cause to really disrupt the other customers in some way or in some loud, obvious way. But in I think it has been multiple Starbucks retail stores where I'm going in there to maybe be on my phone, to work on my phone or to work on my laptop, to utilize just the cafe ambiance and space. And people go to Starbucks to study as a student or to work on a project or whatever it may be. And they don't, people in general understand Starbucks to be a place where you can kind of just go to hang out, but also you can go there for a coffee. At least that's what I have understood Starbucks to sort of be like, is, not necessarily based on, if you come in this restaurant, you have to buy something, right? And I can understand, why people or companies do that, guys, because sometimes you'd want to try to control maybe some of the demographic of who's coming into your store because of certain maybe present realities in your area. Or I know the Seattle area has a problem with homelessness a lot, especially in comparison to many other major cities and stuff. And so in Seattle, I know there may be a reason for why, you may have people sort of extra careful on who's coming in the cafe and what they're doing, because there's a lot of people who may just, destroy a bathroom just because it kind of comes to their mind, or, they start to act crazy in public. But nevertheless, outside of all of that, guys, when you have people just going into a Starbucks, in a good way, and just to be asked to leave because you're not buying something that day, guys. Let alone, again, I was asked to leave this Starbucks when probably over the month I've spent like at least $50, at Starbucks on drinks and food, not to let alone my whole lifetime, experience of paying money into Starbucks to use their products and services, right? And so it just means it to me, that is sort of rude customer service. Like you're sort of, trying to pin your customers down like, hey, if you don't, every time you walk into this Starbucks, you have to pay for something. And I just think that's bad business ethics. And so in my opinion, starting Eden Cafe, um, I want to be able to help in critiquing some of these behaviors that we can see go on in businesses. Obviously, I'm sure Eden Cafe is going to have its set of problems and things that customers complain about, guys. So it's not to necessarily bash on Starbucks. But I did want to make this video to kind of bring out the point that, when starting a company or business, it is important to educate your employees on some of the common practices And I do think there needs to be more of a connection between high level CEOs and workers with the operations of their low level CEO, I mean, low level workers and people that are operating their retail stores. I think the undercover boss concept is sort of correct to do, even though it can sometimes be a sort of an awkward show to watch. But when you have bosses kind of going into their own company stores to see what's really going on and the attitude that's being portrayed to their customers, guys, I feel like Starbucks, especially in the Seattle area, needs to do some undercover boss type of stuff in general too. Is my friendly advice to companies like that as well, because guys, I mean, just again going to the Starbucks thing, guys, I've experienced some downright rude behavior from Starbucks employees, guys. And again, this is after the whole conversation or transaction is probably 10 seconds long, where I am, walking on the sidewalk, or, I'm driving down the road and like, oh, hey, here's a Starbucks. So I, go into this Starbucks, and, depending on what you're there for, guys, it, really uh, tells how the conversation is going to go, guys. Um, if you're there to just use the bathroom, guys, there's sort of this negative stigma about, oh, you have to buy something in order to use the bathroom, guys. Something that every human being deserves the dignity to be able to do, in a way, when you really think about it, because it's one of those necessities. It's not like, the choice of either having a smartphone or not having a smartphone to better stay connected. It's one of those biological necessities that every human being deserves, especially in 2026, access to a bathroom anywhere they can. And not only Starbucks, guys, but many businesses. And again, I can understand sort of the reason behind this, especially with the homelessness crisis and vandalism. But still, guys, there is sometimes this negative stigma when asking to use the bathroom in certain areas. It's almost like this, kind of segregation thing when you think about kind of what happened to the African American community, with like certain levels of classes, of social classes, guys, even in America, what I've noticed, guys. And again, guys, my family is not necessarily lower class, guys. Now, a lot of areas that I found myself in, I'm often mixing with lower class, and a lot of people may not necessarily recognize that I come from, a more privileged class than most. But yet, when people sort of judge you, and there's this whole stigma about, hey, can I have a water, or can I use your bathroom, irregardless of, kind of, and maybe there needs to be sort of a tracking system when you walk into companies like Starbucks or Walmart, where you have these stats of how often and how much money you have already used at their company. And to have these days where you may not want to pay for a coffee, or really want anything except to maybe sit down in their cafe and hop on your computer and utilize the free Wi-Fi, or get a water or use their bathroom, and to get some attitudes that you get from some of the workers, or some of the kind of the atmosphere that they try to portray for their Starbucks customers, I think needs to be tweaked. Now, again, I do believe Starbucks is a top line company, guys, that is doing great things, but there still needs to be a call to refinement, guys, just like the Bible talks about getting us to a higher and more efficient and better place, instead of getting always complacent about how we are running our businesses. And, this could lead to not working on the attitudes of your employees, could lead to things like worker strikes. Now, obviously, it's harder to make the connection about how your employees treat the customers and how that reflects again back on them. But, again, if you have customers that are dissatisfied, surely that is a reflection on the workers themselves at Starbucks or whatever company that are sort of maybe dissatisfied with their position and trying to project that onto the customers. Now, I get it also, too, guys. The Bible does sort of tell us that there are some workers that are just flat out, not doing their job right, and it has no reflection on the Starbucks company themselves or the lack of skill that maybe the management has or whatever. It's just that this particular worker is sort of off their rocker on that day or consistently may need to get disciplined in some way. So that's one of the things that I just wanted to share. And wanted to share that because I'm also interested in opening a cafe, guys. And, obviously, it would be great if anyone else who may have influence over their business or whatever to really look at kind of the experience that customers are really having in their stores and start to care about it, even though it's easy to not care at all about anything that I just said. Even as a CEO or worker, you're just like, hey, whatever, I'm making money, it's just going to run how it runs. And so there's that too. But anyway, thanks so much, guys. I'll talk to you later. See ya.